Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee. Today is Thursday, November 14th. This meeting is being recorded by the Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcasting. This evening we will begin with citizens' comments. I would like to kindly remind everyone that you take up to 3 minutes, no more than 3 minutes. We will use a total of 20 minutes for the citizens' comments. And I would like to also kindly remind everyone that we are not able to take citizens' comments that include complaints against a particular individual to not violate employee rights. Is that correct, also? Okay.
Kristen, before we get started, I'm signing the voucher, and there needs to be corrections made on this. Robin Latoile's name is still on for signature, and so that needs to be corrected in the future.
Okay, thank you. We'll move that. We'll begin with citizens' comments if there are any this evening.
Just a bit of information that what the town of Northfield, Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee will put through. A citizen, one of your members, filed a complaint against us saying that we had violated the open meeting law. And Mr. Townsley felt that way. So we had our attorney handle it, and this came about after the four-town meeting in the summer, when we talked about what we were going to recommend to our voters on the budget, on the school committee, town meetings that were to be held in June. And so we went to the expense of having our legal counsel handle it, and just so you know the outcome was that there was no violation. So I just thought that should be on the record that it's been cleared. But the complaint was filed against both the Select Board and the Finance Committee in Northfield. I'm not sure whether the other towns encountered that same complaint or not. I'm only speaking for Northfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Claire Brennan, co-president of the PVRSD, and I'm here tonight to talk about the termination of Ms. Gina Johnson, an unfortunate overreach by the superintendent.
I have to respectfully pause you right there.
So, the employee in question, is she here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so she'd have to authorize you to speak about.
I can't hear.
She'd have to authorize you to speak about a personnel matter, because normally we wouldn't be able to.
Yes. Thank you.
The termination of Ms. Gina Johnson is an unfortunate overreach by the superintendent, and the association is taking the necessary steps to protect her rights in this matter. The association has yet to be provided any evidence of insubordination, the alleged reason Ms. Johnson's termination as athletic director. Past practice for notice of intent to terminate by the superintendent was given in conjunction with an immediate placement on paid administrative leave. Yet, Ms. Johnson remained in her position as athletic director for almost 6 weeks after the notice of intent to terminate for the alleged insubordination.
I want to make one thing clear, though. So, once this is allowed, to become public, it means both sides become public. So, all evidence could be provided both by the employer and by the employee. So normally, if you wanted to talk about the situation in general without the specifics.
I'm done.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
And I just wanted to share a follow-up matter that on October 10th, the PVRUEA, REA, requested an exact amount of teacher overspending that was printed in a recorder article on 9/25/19. And so we have yet to receive that information in terms of the exact amount, but we would like to share that we reached out to the chair and the vice chair, and on their opinion, we referred the matter to the superintendent and so we received an email back that states from the Director of Finance that I will, however, say the statement in the recorder published was not true, a true reflection of my explanation in terms of the overspending. So we would like that retracted as it was public information that was shared in the Greenfield Recorder. So we would respectfully request and want to state that we feel like that's a reckless quote, and we would want that rescinded as misinformation that was shared to the public.
I cannot say. When the recorder asks us questions, you have to understand that the media will take and put things in the paper. I asked them to edit that article, not only for what I said, but also an amount that was published, because the amount that was published was like 600 and something thousand when it was really only 540. And that edit was supposed to take place the next day and did not. So I do apologize for that. I'm not their boss. I can't make them change the article. I don't know what to do at this point, because I did ask them to change the article the day actually that it was published, and it was supposed to be edited in the online version, and it was not edited. And I did give a very lengthy explanation to the PVREA.
Okay. Thank you.
No other citizens' comments? All right, we'll begin with the agenda. Okay, sorry.
That's right.
My name's Alison Raymond. I'm a Northfield resident, for everyone that doesn't know me. I have 2 children that graduated from Pioneer, one in 2017 and one just in June. At their time at Pioneer, they went through 3 superintendents, 2 principals, 2 assistant principals, a dean of students who was here and then not, and then came back. And the one constant that they had in their lives was the athletic director, Gina Johnson. I think that we all would agree that stability and consistency in children's lives at home and school is very important. With that being said, I am here to read a letter from my youngest son. He sent this to Gina the night that I told him the news, and he can't be here as he's away at school, so I just want to read this for him. Hi, Gina. My mom just gave me the news. I am very upset about this, and it actually made me think and realize a couple of things. I would first like to thank you for everything you have done for the school and the kids. The relationship that you build with each student is extremely important, and it is valued by all of us. I will never forget gym classes with you, and I will never forget you letting me get into the gym to work on my shot. I would also like to thank you for being there for me through everything. From the unfortunate situation that happened my junior year to my biggest moments on the court, you were there for it all. You have always been a mentor, someone I could talk to about anything. You are someone that has passion, spirit, and a drive to make the best out of anything. Your positive attitude towards our school is something that I have always admired. You never let negativities impact your day. You continuously greet everyone with a smile and sometimes a hug if we are lucky. You are like a second mother to many of us, including myself. Whether you know it or not, you taught me many, many life lessons. So Gina, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so, so much. And I am truly sorry that this is happening to you. Love, Garrett. Thank you.
Would you like to submit a written? Would you like to submit the written document, or it's up to you?
If you need it.
I'll probably pass it down.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name's Stephen Martin. My wife Ruth Potee and I have also had our children in the Pioneer District for many years. One a graduate and here tonight, one a senior here tonight, one a sophomore. And throughout that time, I just want to add in my second the comments of the fellow Northfield before me that Gina Johnson has been a priceless and invaluable example to our kids and their friends and the entire district. And it strains credulity that there could be anything that would remotely approach the actions taken by the superintendent. And it really affects the credibility of anybody in the district that was involved in her termination. It's senseless. It is a real shame that this is happening. I'm sure that it can be rectified and must be rectified. And the community is very much looking forward this to be reversed. And we look forward to having Gina back as athletic director where she belongs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time. My name is Nick DeRuiter, Bernardston resident. My wife and I have 2 children in the Pioneer system right now. Our oldest is a junior, which means he's been in the school system this is his 12th year, started in kindergarten at BES. We moved to Bernardston because of the reputation of the school system at the time. It was very good, especially Bernardston Elementary, and that's why we came here. I understand that school districts have ups and downs. They have ebbs and flows. And we all understand that over the past 5 years or so, the reputation of the Pioneer District has taken a little bit of a hit through lack of transparency, through budget problems that we never really seemed to get answers for, nor was anybody ever really held accountable. We had hoped that we were on the rebound. And I'm not here to argue for or against Gina, really. I mean, I could, but I won't. My main issue is that the reasons we've seen for this action by the superintendent, I think to most of the students and parents here, the reasons that we've seen, the only ones that we've been able to see so far, seem to be extremely petty, which makes us think that the decision just smacks of politics. And that is something that the district does not need right now, a district that's trying to rebuild its reputation. This makes us look bad when there doesn't seem to be a valid reason for the decision. It makes us think something shady is going on behind the scenes. And I just think that's a shame. You know, we really need to work hard to improve the reputation and the image of this district, and I think this is another black eye, and that's all I have to say.
Anyone else for citizens' comments? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. If we could review the minutes, please, from May 16th, 2019, as well as October 10th of 2019.
Kristen, can I just ask one thing since we have Russell here? Before we move on, Russell, is it appropriate for us to clarify for the community the role of the school committee at a time like this and what we can and cannot do and what the boundaries of our role are?
You wouldn't normally do that right now, but I could say what they are.
I just want the community to understand.
Yeah, so the basic rule is that for hiring and firing, it is an administrative decision, so the committee can make recommendations to administration about what to do with certain situations, but they don't actually have the authority to overrule. The exception to that would be if it's a direct school committee hire, like a business manager or superintendent. But for a situation of other positions, the committee is not the direct hiring authority or firing authority. So it's recommendations only. And
Right. And under what circumstances and how would a committee make recommendations?
If a grievance made it to the committee's level, it would be heard in executive session, and the committee would make recommendations at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we can review the minutes, please.
On the first page, section 1.
Which one? May 16th?
May 16th.
Mhm.
Okay. Are we reviewing more than May 16th?
Yeah, we have two
I
sets
thought
of
we were
minutes,
doing
May
the 16th.
16th and October 10th.
The second paragraph, that's Tom Zanidi.
What is it? CIN?
Z-I-N.
Okay. Yes, Sharon.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes with the correction for May 16th, 2019.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, or any discussion? No? All in favor? Okay.
Are we on the next one?
Regarding the October 10th minutes, yes.
Okay, on the first page, I think the word "not" was left out, about 3/4 of the way down. The line starts with O'Reilly McRae pointed out the committee has been able to discuss, and it should be not been able to, according to my recollection. Okay.
Thank you.
On page 5, about the 6th line down, where it says, wouldn't draw from other school, district schools, but said the, should be not prospective, but prospectus. Page 5, 6th line down, prospectus. Yeah.
I got another,
Yes, go ahead.
same page 5, on the last full paragraph, on a motion by Marshall, that's me, and there's a second L.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Marcia, welcome. Are there any other corrections? For the minutes?
I would move that we approve them as corrected.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? We'll begin with appearances and the food service director. Oh, he was not able to be here, so Tanya is going to report on the food service.
So Mike Honorato is our new food service director, and you guys met him. I think he was at meeting 2 ago in September when I was here last in the district. And I just have a little synopsis of what's going on with food service. This year's food service is planning on implementing several programs and turning several concepts into realities that will improve not only participation but satisfaction within the district. The Breakfast After the Bell program has been implemented at our elementary schools. Last week, the first week, we wound up seeing 696 breakfasts served across the district. Last year, during the same 5-day week in November, there was 295 breakfast serves. This is 400 more meals being served, creating more revenue while controlling costs. There still needs to be some fine-tuning of this program, but the initial response has been positive. Also, we are finishing up and preparing to submit a Breakfast After the Bell implementation grant to supply the tools to all the schools for easier service of this program. We'll be looking at PVRS and how we can implement the same system this winter. ID card scanners. The plan is going to be to start using this process next week at our elementary schools. All systems have been set up with scanners and ID cards to use, and he will implement this next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so each day it will start at a new school. Just to kind of touch base on that real quick, this was something that we talked about last spring when I was discussing making the processing and recording of lunches served a more electronic process rather than checking off a box and then it being entered, a day, 2 days, a week later after the fact. So this is really going to make things more efficient in the schools, as well as make sure that we have accurate documentation of all of our students being served. Next Thursday, there is a turkey dinner at the schools across the district. Many of you know that a group of senior citizens from our community dine with us at PVRS that day. It seems as though also at Warwick School, there will be a community members joining students for lunch that day. This is something that I can wholly stand behind and would be more than happy to help bring about a community lunch opportunity at all of the elementary schools. Grab-and-go items at PVRS. We have acquired reusable grab-and-go containers to serve a wider variety of items to the students and staff at PVRS. These would include composed salads, Pioneer lunch packs, and many other possibilities. Students need first to be educated as to the fact that the containers are not disposable and where they will be available before we are able to institute these new items. So he's basically trying to provide more lunch options for all the students, increase our participation, but it doesn't just have to do with our revenue and, the bottom line. He's really trying to make sure that all the students are fed and have the nutrition they need to be successful in their school day as well. So it's really a full circle situation. Participation is up, even though we have slightly lower enrollment. We are currently at 52% participation district-wide compared to 44% last October. Our goal is 70% participation and can be achieved in time with the improvements to our lunch program. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Principals and administrators, please.
Are we going to do the lunch report later?
Yeah,
Okay.
this was just, he was
Yeah.
going to come kind of give a synopsis, but he couldn't be here, so we put together.
We can make sure she's on the agenda.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We're just arguing. Start which one? All right.
Good evening.
Hi.
Are you guys ready? Am I interrupting something?
Okay,
sounds
perfect.
Just very quickly, I wanted to, wearing my early childhood hat, I wanted to talk about the sensory hallway and from Fit and Fun Playscapes. That was, the first one was installed in Bernardston. I hope you saw the pictures that were in the paper, or if you get to go to Bernardston, you should go check it out. I was there today for another reason, and it seemed like it was in constant use. Either one or two kids or groups of kids were coming down the hallway and using it. And the next step is to install it in Northfield here. Christy Solda, who is the president of the Special Needs Parent Advisory Council, is trying to involve the Parent Advisory Council members to help install it here. So it will either be, it's most likely going to be December 5th that they install it here, possibly November 21st, but trying to get everybody together has been a bit of a stretch for everyone. So one of those dates it will be put in here, and you'll get to see it here.
Good evening. At PVRS, our professional development day on November 1st, our teachers had an opportunity to share their best practices with each other. I'd like to thank our curriculum director, Ariel Leroux, who's sitting over there, for all her work in organizing this PD, which was well received by our faculty. We had a presentation by some of our special education teachers, Karen Browning and Val Fontaine, on executive functioning skills, focusing on planning, managing time, organizing, impulse control, response inhibition, and metacognition. Faculty also visited Matt Colleen's class, Nikki Pullen, and John Heffernan's class, so they could share their best practices with staff in regards to how differentiated instruction in a heterogeneous classroom is performed. Strategies such as gamifying, layered curriculum, self-directed learning, and project-based learning were exhibited to our faculty. Our middle school team explained what Identity Day for 7th graders at PVRS is about. The day celebrates individual differences along with commonalities. Part of the inspiration for this project was the Miranda Lambert song, All Kinds of Kind, which is incorporated into the day's activity. The middle school team wanted time for students to think introspectively about who they are, both as individuals and where they fit into a group. This year, they expanded the project to include 8th graders and developed an Inspiring Individuals theme to help externalize kindness. Students not only got to choose who inspired them, but also who got to choose the format in which to show this. Projects varied from podcasts to posters to short films, children books, and TikToks. One student chose another student in their class to be her inspiring person. Students reflected on why they chose the person and how that made a difference in the world. This will pair well with many lessons entwined into the middle school curriculum about how we can all, big or small, make a difference in the world, our state, or community. I'd also like to talk about Ernest Abramian, our health teacher, and with the help of Kevin Thomas, our school security monitor, worked with Dr. Gerald Beltram, the emergency medical director from Bay State, to work with our students in the emergency care class about job responsibilities. Not only did Dr. Beltran come and speak with our students, he also arranged to bring an EMS vehicle and a helicopter to PVRS. With the help of our gracious help of our Northfield Fire and Emergency Services, the helicopter landed at PVRS today, and the first responders spoke to our students, giving them firsthand job perspective. I would also like to thank Kevin Thomas, whose last day at PVRS is tomorrow. Kevin, you will be missed. The PVRS fall sports season is completed. I'd like to thank our student athletes, parents, and coaches for a great fall season. It was great to see PVRS pride at games with our teams supporting each other along with the strong parent support. Congratulations to our girls varsity soccer team for making tournament with 11-5 record, and to our middle school football team who had an undefeated season. I also want to address the protest our students organized at PVRS in support of Gina Johnson. I am proud of our students for the respectful, peaceful, and organized way that they staged this protest, and I commend our students for making sure their voices were heard.
Hello, welcome to Northfield. I'm glad that you get here once a year. So in the fall, a lot of focus is spent on refreshing our skill set with safety drills. So we've had our second fire drill, we had a lockdown drill, our bus evacuation drills have occurred, and in December we are having our first reunification training with the State Police Department. We also had our fire safety and prevention presentations a couple weeks ago with our local firefighters. In October, we had our all-school meeting that focused on playground appreciation. So as you may recall, we have 2 new play structures and some other upgrades to our playground, thanks to the efforts of our PTO and many volunteers who came out a nice weekend in August. There are some posters up here and some thank yous over there. So the focus of our October all-school meeting was really just appreciating and hearing from the students what they love about our new play structures. We've done our second annual Trick or Treat for UNICEF collection. I don't know our total yet. That's being counted tomorrow by our 1st grade and 4th grade buddies. And we also have begun our annual food drive for the Northfield Food Pantry, and that delivery will be on November 20th. I'm very excited that we will be joining the Turkey Trot this 2 weeks from now, I think. And so we're gearing up for that. It's a big event. I want to thank Sue Scott for all of the work that she's doing to make this happen, and we're feeling very privileged to be a part of this district-wide event. I want to just quickly name a couple things that we're going to be doing related to our school improvement plan. One of the activities that I've wanted to bring into Northfield, and in some cases it already is mindfulness practices in our classroom. So Susan O'Connor, who's also on the Green Energy Committee, is being trained as a trainer, and so she's coming into our first grade classrooms for, I think, 16 sessions, and working with the teachers and the students about how to be mindful and how to practice that on a daily basis. And then after the start of the new year, she'll be coming into 2 more grades, possibly 3, and then hopefully revisiting next year with some of the other classrooms that won't get the chance this year. So we're really excited to be rolling that out. And then also related to our school improvement plan is to help support students and parents with safe social media use, internet safety. So we are actually teaming up with Pioneer, with the Project Safe Childhood Program Specialist from the Attorney's Office, who will be coming to us on December 5th and presenting to our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and then hopefully in the spring have a parents' evening. And I really think that that's a super important thing that we need to do a lot of. Lastly, I just want to announce our new 2nd grade teacher who started on Tuesday, and her name is Megan O'Hearn, and we're happy to have her. We are also still hiring for instructional assistants and always looking for more substitutes. So if there's anybody out there that feels gifted working with children, we would love to have them on our substitute roster. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to talk a little bit about all the things that have been happening at Bernardston since about the past month and a half. We too have also been celebrating a lot of issues around safety, so we were lucky enough to have the Bernardston Fire Department come and give a presentation earlier in the month of October for all of our classrooms around safety and fire protocols in people's homes and in schools. We've had a couple of walking field trips, one to the Historical Society and a few to Cushman's Park to celebrate and look at Scarecrow in the Park. One of our classrooms did win the classroom prize for Scarecrow in the Park, so it was very exciting for us. We've also had some other visitors coming to the school. We've had Northfield Mount Herman. We've had about 5 students coming on Wednesday afternoons, and they've been participating first in a 2-week exploratory visit where they kind of came and looked at a bunch of different classrooms, understanding the benefits. I then met with them and talked to them about what different classrooms have to offer themselves to learn from and the different groupings. They then selected the classroom that they would like to work in for the next month and a half, and they did so. So now at this point in time, that has ended for them for the semester, but we're looking forward to them coming back with a new group of students in January. We also had parent-teacher conferences, and they were fabulous. They went off really, really well. We had about almost 100% attendance for most classrooms. I was not really surprised that we had such a high number of attendance for parents due to the fact that we had a really great open house and had very much the same representation at open house, with most classrooms having about 90 to 95 or even 100% attendance for all their classrooms. Again, thinking about safety planning for the month of October, we also had the state police come to Bernardston and practice a lockdown safety drill. We received a glowing review from the state police with a few areas to keep continuing to work on to enhance to be better for next year. We've also been engaging in data meetings. Once we had our first benchmarking system, all of the teachers and I, with our reading specialist, met to review areas of strengths for students and areas of continued progress that we need to be looking at and better ways to enhance our teaching practices. We've also been looking at professional learning communities. I have encouraged the teachers to kind of have the opportunities to come and observe each other. We've had a lot of fabulous teaching going on at Bernardston, and unfortunately some of the teachers can't really leave to go see all the fabulous things in other classrooms because they're teaching in their own classrooms. We've been trying to come up with creative ways to do that, and I was lucky enough to teach in a 2nd grade classroom for a little while, to have my teacher go and take a look at another 5th grade classroom, so it's been really exciting. Something else that's happening, we were lucky enough to have the Bernardston Police Department and the Sheriff's Department come on Halloween for Halloween safety. They provided us with some reminders around safety and usage, and also with some fun glow sticks that the children wished that they had at that moment in time, but had to unfortunately wait till the end of the day to get, along with some fun and brightly colored Halloween bags. So it was nice to have both departments in the schools to be able to have the students be able to ask police officers and sheriffs some questions at that time. We also have the American Heart Association coming in. They've started working with us in the areas of heart health. We had a kickoff the other week around heart health and awareness, and so we'll have a closing event for the Turkey Trot, and that's going to open us up to, when we have our closing event, the possibility of applying for a grant for hopefully being able to use that money towards additional PE programming and supports. We were excited to host at Bernardston the elementary PD on November 1st. It was very exciting for us to have all of the elementary teachers in the building and be able to collaborate on that day. We just recently had local veterans come to celebrate Veterans Day. We had an all-school assembly by Ms. Keir. She led it off, which was fabulous. She did an incredible job. The veterans did say that it was one of the best things that they had been to, and that the children literally brought a few tears to some people's eyes while singing. It was very patriotic. Ms. Snedeker did a fabulous job preparing the students for patriotic songs. Some things that are coming up in the next day or two, we do have Dr. Trash coming tomorrow to talk about recycling and composting, so I'm very excited about that. We won a little prize around waste management, and if you're the first person to write in, we got Dr. Trash to come, so yay, Dr. Trash. We also have parents, we have a PTO night tomorrow night for family paint night and used book sales, so come on down tomorrow night if you'd like to paint an ornament for Christmas, or if you don't know how to paint, they'll help you out, and if you need a book for 50 cents, head on over to Bernardston. We've got them right for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. So the theme of October for Warwick was weather. Weather has really been challenging us in Warwick. We had the October storm where there was no power, no phones, and no cell service, which caused us to cancel school for 3 days. And on the third day, on the advice of the police chief, Superintendent Schedule and I made a plan with Principal Burke to move the students and staff from WCS to the middle school hallway of PVRS. Teachers worked all day on Monday to ensure that the students had classroom supplies and familiar items available in the middle school. The students arrived by bus, very exciting, very loud. There was bracelet making on the bus, that was exciting. There was some song chanting, and that was really loud. The students arrived by bus from the Warwick Town Hall on Tuesday and completed business as usual at PVRS for the week. They were excited about the lunch choices in the cafeteria. You get like 3 or 4 choices in the Pioneer cafeteria, and you get 1 in Warwick, and you sign up for it at 8:30. And that is what you get. They were also excited to see former WCS students wandering the hallways, who always stopped in and said hello. However, they were very happy to return home the following Monday, with many students saying that they had missed all of our playground equipment and our recess choices. Then we had a fall fest that got rescheduled because of the weather. And then on the weather rescheduled day, it rained. So it was moved inside. So that's our annual learning celebration, held outdoors usually to make use of our natural environment. We held it indoors, and we made fairy houses with all kinds of things being brought inside, and played seasonal games and enjoyed fall snacks and crafts with our classroom buddies. We also had to reschedule. We had rescheduled Halloween in our neighboring communities of Orange and Athol. Rescheduled Halloween fell on the same night as the PTO's pasta supper. So we rolled it all together, and we did trick-or-treating in the hallways with costumed graduates. They came in and dressed up. We had a hippie, we had the Pope, we had all kinds of things going on. They trick-or-treated and then went to the pasta supper. So the PTO brought in about $800, despite it being on the same night as the rescheduled Halloween. And then we rescheduled our parent-teacher conferences, and we finished those last week. They were well attended by families. Coming up soon, we have a Thanksgiving feast.
which Tanya mentioned is open to our families on November 21st and being provided by the cafeteria. And today we had exciting news. Our Turkey Trot record of laps run was broken with 45 laps run today by 5th grader Louise Flageolet. And that was just today. Just today she ran 45 laps. The big thing that I've been working on lately has been the Kaleidoscope grant, which I'm sure Ariel is going to speak about as well. In collaboration with Ariel, our curriculum director, we are in the process of, or maybe just submitted, going to be tonight, the grant to the Department of Education on behalf of Warwick Community School and Pioneer. This state is leading a deeper learning initiative this year, looking for schools who are providing students with curriculum that fosters critical thinking, creativity, innovation, and collaboration while maintaining high learning standards and implementing relevant and engaging lessons. All of the schools in the PVRSD are doing this work. Ariel worked on the PVRS section of the grant, and I worked on the Warwick section. Both sections have the same overarching theme of creating units full of differentiated instruction that utilize our outdoor spaces to further student engagement and achievement while honoring the individual learner. We see this as an opportunity to share with the state some of this fantastic work. When Ariel brought the initiative forward to our admin team, I was immediately excited by all of its possibilities and how well it matches our current school improvement plan, which focuses around digging deeper in the areas of science and social studies and developing a growth mindset. WCS is leading the way in innovation with interactive curriculum, Genius Hour, Makerspace, Project Time, STEM challenges, mathematical art projects, playwriting, and so much more. The proposal required me to boast about our engaging academic curriculum, that part was easy, and visualize where we would go with these ideas next if given resources and training from DESE. In the proposal, I discuss improving our outdoor learning space, increasing our collaboration with schools across the globe through video chats, live streaming, and blogging, developing a volunteer teaching program around natural science in collaboration with Four Winds Nature Institute and the Mass Audubon Society, and increasing our creativity and differentiation in mathematics lessons. We hope to hear back regarding acceptance in December and are excited for the opportunity to share the innovative practices of the Pioneer Valley Regional School System with the Department of Education.
Thank you.
Hi. So here I am, wearing the hat of curriculum coordinator or curriculum director, not sure, I get called both. So I'm here to tell you what I've been doing since the beginning of the year, stepping into this position. And so first, what I've been doing as the curriculum coordinator has been taking some steps to coordinate the curriculum. In close collaboration with the elementary teacher leaders and principals, we've been taking steps towards forming a literacy committee, and the goal is to look at literacy programs this year in hopes of deciding on one by the end of the year that we will be able to adopt and develop across the whole district. Right now, there's a whole bunch of things that people are using that are good, but we want to kind of align and coordinate and put it all together. So we've been doing that. Also, again, working with the now Pioneer teacher leaders and the principal. A school-wide professional practice goal focusing on differentiating instruction is underway. And we are also in the beginnings of a curriculum audit, which is looking at what we are teaching across the content areas, as well as the age and relevancy of our texts. In addition, in line with the state's tiered focus monitoring report from last year, we are examining our curricula for equitable representation, looking to identify incidences of bias based on gender, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, and differing abilities in the text we present to students. And we are beginning to discuss ways to offer authentic voices and representation across the board. Just to note, do keep in mind that these curricular adjustments are all going to be dependent on budgets. So as you heard from others, on November 1st, we had our in-service professional development day across the district, and I was really excited to utilize some of our homegrown talent, and Annie Foley and Caroline Page, yes, who are both literacy specialists in the district. They put on workshops and breakout sessions in the elementary, in Bernardston Elementary, for all the elementary school teachers, and from what I gathered, really led a really great day, focusing on literacy and getting the ideas rolling on that. And then as Mr. Burke presented at the high school, middle high school, we had in the morning, actually didn't talk about this, in the morning we gave special ed the floor, and we had a presentation put on by, again, our in-house special ed teachers, Karen Browning and Val, what's her last name? Fontaine. And Val Fontaine, and it was on executive functioning, which was great. It perfectly segued into the best practices that we did later in the day, that we're focusing on differentiated instruction and some of the really awesome and unique things that teachers in our school have been doing, which I think was really good to show some of our new teachers, as well as to show our new principal kind of who we are and what we've been doing. It's good stuff. I also did a quick presentation on something I like to call the Pioneer Way. Some people may have heard about this before, and which this is our unique culture of heterogeneity and a dedication to meeting students where they are at and teaching the whole child. This was a segue into an introduction of what the state is calling deeper learning, which Chris just told you about her excitement. Which is basically a catchphrase for project-based learning, differentiation, using student passion to fuel engagement and hands-on authentic experiences, focusing on transferable skills as well as content. And my feeling when I first heard about this is that it's nice that the state is finally catching up and that they're starting to look at other ways of doing school that are not necessarily focused on standardized tests. It doesn't mean they're getting rid of them, but they're asking the question of how could we do it differently and what would we need to do it. And so I'm really excited that they're asking that question. So I've been pursuing 2 state grant opportunities, as I am also the grants manager, and as it was published in the newspaper that I will be getting competitive grants, which maybe I will, hopefully. Which are really hard to get, by the way, just so you know. So I've been focusing on 2 grant opportunities, both intended to help Pioneer take our Pioneer Way to the next level. The district strategic plan, which is still in draft stage, intends to focus on ways we can provide expanded opportunities for our students, ensuring students are both on the path to college and career through reimagining what school could be, supporting social and emotional learning, and engaging the community as partners. This amazingly timed Mass Department of Education initiative called the Kaleidoscope Collective, which is basically the state starting to ask the question of how we can do it differently, as well as the Perkins CTE Pathways partnership grant, which I'm hoping will help us to plan something I'm calling the Pioneer Pathways Program. Alliteration, English teacher in me. Where is that? And so these have both been taking up lots of my time. So quick explanation of the Pioneer Pathways Program, at least in our imaginings, would be comprised of a selection of in-house PVRS courses, kind of brought together into an articulated pathway that would be in our program of studies, providing foundational skills for industries such as nursing, education, business, engineering, possibly land management, fire safety, and criminal justice. Coursework counting toward PVRS graduation would be combined with shadowing and/or internship experiences with community partners in the region, with the intent of providing a PVRS certificate that could qualify them for credentials or opting out of certain prerequisites at Greenfield Community College or even college credit. So this is actually a huge thing that if you want to know more, feel free to come and talk to me. I'm piecing together and learning lots of ways that we can make some pretty interesting things happen. I'm going to a grant conference tomorrow, which I'm meeting up with some people. It's going to be good. And lastly, I would like to tell you that I'm also working to get our seniors and juniors through another year of portfolio, which will be, and this is where I get to connect it all, central to these initiatives if they come to fruition, as it is and has always been intended to be the vehicle through which we evaluate the whole child, beyond GPAs and SAT scores, which is and always has been the Pioneer Way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, you sure? Okay. Thank you. I apologize if I step on any toes as I repeat some things. I apologize greatly. So the first quarter ended last Friday, and we've begun our second one. This is the one where we have a lot of nice breaks and holidays, so it's my favorite. In addition, the theater department is putting on 2 one-act plays this weekend. So we have The Lottery and Adiago and The Death of Love will take place on Friday and Saturday evening at 7 p.m., correct? Awesome. It's $8 for adults and $5 for students and senior citizens. We'd love to see you all there. And I know that this was mentioned before, but the Senior Citizen Luncheon will take place a week from today. So the cafeteria will serve traditional Thanksgiving foods, and the band will play a preview of their holiday selections for the holiday concert. So the band is preparing for that right now. And then I know this is in Mr. Schedule's report, and I apologize for stepping on any toes, but I'll give the student perspective of it. The Pioneer Valley Regional School is hosting the Turkey Trot, which is super, super exciting. I was in on a meeting with Mr. Burke and Sue Scott where we discussed plans and ways to team up high school students with elementary school students. And so we're planning to assign clubs such as National Honor Society, Training Active Bystanders, the Gay Straight Alliance, to certain groups. So there's going to be groups staying inside. There's going to be groups of kids having a quiet space and coloring. There's going to be a group watching a movie, and there's going to be groups that need help running. We're going to assign, I think, some NHS members to the little preschoolers. And so this way, everyone is involved and has a partner, basically, that they can be assigned to. Yes, of course.
Seniors to sign up for this, do they get credit for community service?
Yep. And same with NHS members. So NHS, National Honor Society, requires 10 hours a semester of community service, and so this will count for that as well, which is exciting, and it's not the only reason to do it, because it's a huge experience for our district, and it's, to have all the students of the district in the same place at the same time is unheard of since I've been here. And in addition, I did get laughed at the last time I mentioned this last year, but the mattress sale for the band is coming up this Saturday, and will take place at Pioneer. So if you need a new mattress, come buy one from us so that we can go to Chicago. That would be great. Thank you so much. And lastly, I would just like to make a comment about the peaceful protest that took place on Thursday, November 7th. Myself and a fellow senior organized it. We were very civil and responsible for our actions, and we're really proud of the step that we took today. It was an important moment of learning, even if we weren't in class. We do believe this was a wrongful termination of Gina Johnson, our athletic director, and I'm really proud of the 100+ students who stayed outside in the freezing cold and were marked either tardy or absent to stand up for what they believe in, and that's really important to education apart from just learning. In a classroom setting. So I'm really proud. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay. Pioneer is part of an exciting new telebehavioral counseling program made possible by a grant. The grant is funded by the Health Resources and Services Administration Federal Office of Rural Health Policy and Office for the Advancement of Telehealth. The twofold purpose of this program is to use telehealth networks to increase access to behavioral health care services in rural communities, conduct evaluations of those efforts to establish an evidence base for assessing the effectiveness of telebehavioral health care for patients, providers, and payers. Maureen Donovan, the program manager at both Athol and Hayward Hospitals, was scheduled to be here tonight to share some more details on that, so she's rescheduling for hopefully our next school committee meeting. Ms. Donovan has a particular interest in implementing telehealth services to varied populations, believes in bringing behavioral health services to adolescents in rural high schools. She is currently a speaker at colleges across Massachusetts, bringing the concept of telebehavioral counseling to future clinicians and encouraging the implementation of telebehavioral clinical training in academic institutions across the Commonwealth. Also, last year, I applied for a computer science grant with the Education Development Center in collaboration with the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the Mass Association of School Superintendents, and the University of Massachusetts in Boston, which is a regional partner for Code.org, and 15 other urban and rural districts that serve over 10,000 students, which proposes a systematic change to improve equity in computer science student achievement. We have just been awarded the grant, which will embed computer science coursework as a component of the curriculum for our 7th and 8th grade students at Pioneer. The U.S. Department of Education Innovation and Research Grant is an intensive research grant focused on documenting, 1, successfully expanding participation to underrepresented student populations with priority focus on rural schools, and 2, increasing student academic achievement and computer science education. And why is computer science education so important for Massachusetts students? In the last decade, changes in technology, communication, and the information life cycle have contributed to significant changes in our world. Increasingly, people are becoming technology creators as well as technology users. Meaningful participation in modern society requires fluency in the uses of, impact of, and ability to manipulate technology for living, learning, and working. Given this context, knowledge and skills include the digital literacy and computer science standards, which are essential for all students. Students of all backgrounds should be prepared for personal and civic efficacy in the 21st century and should have the opportunity to consider innovative and creative technology-based careers of the future. And I go on to list the benefits to Pioneer Valley Regional School District, which will receive $7,500 annually through a 5-year sub-award. And there's all sorts of opportunities for PD, for our staff, so it's kind of an exciting opportunity. I think page 2 somehow didn't make it into my report, so I apologize for reading off my phone. I emailed you this. I just want to mention the 2 new hires in our district. I'm pleased to announce two new hires. The first is Rob Johnson, who will be taking over for Kevin Thomas as our security monitor. Rob's first day is Friday, November 15th, so he'll be overlapping with Kevin tomorrow. Kevin has an exciting job opportunity closer to home. He's been excellent, as Mr. Burke has said, and I just want to thank him for everything he's done in our district. Rob is currently a part-time police officer in Leiden and recently serves as the Director of Safety and Security for the Eaglebrook School for 7 years. He's also worked for the Deerfield Police Department, Northfield Mount Herman as their plant facilities manager / superintendent, and Vermont Yankee years ago as their lieutenant security training supervisor. So we're very excited to have him. He also has a daughter that goes to Pioneer who's in 10th grade year. Kevin Seaman will be joining us as our new facilities manager. Kevin will start December 16th as he has to finish some projects with his current employer. He wants to be fair to them and give them ample notice. He's been the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration maintenance specialist with the Amherst Pelham Regional School District since 2008. Kevin's work includes all HVAC and refrigeration, electrical, plumbing, carpentry, painting, flooring, and mechanical needs. He has an impressive resume and skill set and is in the process of purchasing a home in Northfield. He's looking forward to working in our district and becoming more involved in the community. Just not to repeat much, what Ella said, but the turkey trot is coming up, and we're very excited to have this all-district event.
Were you going to read all of this?
No, I'm just going to summarize it. It's not going to be long, but I just want to thank Sue Scott and the principals, Ella for all their hard work, Chris McGuire as well, Mike, our food service director, for organizing this. There's an agenda listed. It's going to be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the 27th. There's a schedule on the back that you can look at, and we'll keep the meeting moving along. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sweet. So, we have already started conversations about budget for next year. So we are ahead of the 8 ball this year. Myself and John met with the select boards of each of the 4 towns last Monday or Tuesday, and discussed with them a very high-level budget and what our planning looks like going into FY21, and we then met again discussing the same budget with the Finance Committee chairs this last Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So we're trying to collaborate with them more in advance, and we put together our budget subcommittee schedule for this year. We're going to be having our subcommittee meeting soon, collaborating with our administration at administrative meetings starting soon, probably every other week or every week to get those budgets put together. And I think we are going to be much easier than last year. So I'm looking forward to it. We have the groundwork down for us this year, so we should be able to work on more of the nuts and bolts of everything and try to fine tune some stuff. And we do have, I don't know if the school committee has to vote on the budget subcommittee schedule or not, but just to announce that they voted on the subcommittee meeting and that the public hearing, which I think you guys have to vote on, is scheduled for February 7th. So it is earlier than usual. It will be before school break, and it will give the school committee, or February 6th is, the 4th is, so 4th is the public hearing, sorry. And then the 6th, which is the Thursday following that, will be the meeting that the school committee votes that budget at. So last year we did the public hearing on a Tuesday night, and then the school committee held a vote on Thursday. That seemed to work well for us last year, rather than trying to do a full school committee meeting and then the public hearing and then coming back again. So that system worked for us last year.
Did you do a backup date?
For the public hearing?
Yeah.
So we do not have a backup date right now.
If you don't have one, we're gonna have a major snowstorm.
You should have a backup.
Well, I will keep my fingers crossed and pray that it happens then, because that's literally the only week that I can even get a flight here the week in February because of all the February breaks. So flights are like sold out. So we will keep our fingers crossed. Otherwise, I may have to attend remotely and we'll have to change my MOU or something. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We can do a backup date. I was originally going to try to do it the week after your guys' February break. But I didn't want to push up against with the weather and the March 15th date that, you know, we kind of pushed ourselves right to the end last year. So trying to get it done earlier, not only for the sake of us as a committee and the administration, but also so that the towns have the information more in advance this year than they did last year. And then if there is any amendments or efficiencies or requests for changes, we have time to make those in advance. Other than that, I just have the regular finance reports. In front of you, the school committee, you have the accounts payable. If I can just make sure that we have a quorum of signatures on that so we can send out checks tomorrow. You have the school committee expenditure report in front of you. You also have that report broken out by category and school, which I promised I would do going forward because some people like to see that differently, as well as our revenue reports. There are a couple requests for transfers that need to be voted. That vote is not on the agenda and was supposed to be, so I'm not sure if Kristen can add that, because that's typically on our agenda to vote transfers that are associated with the budget. And it was requested to be put on there. I just don't see it on there. Yeah, that's fine. Does anyone have any specific questions on the expenditure report other than lines that there are requests for voted transfers for that they see in the negative? There are a couple small ones in here, pennies here or there. There's one I know in the special ed department for $90 that Chris and I are working on. Just what needs to be charged where. I think something got charged to the wrong line, so we're researching that and that'll be resolved. But right now we are, other than the transfer request that you have in front of you, we're looking good. Brendan and I are talking often and making sure that everyone's spending what they're supposed to and not spending what they're not supposed to. So there are requests for transfer from our pension expense line of $3,500 to the school committee expense line for the MASC policy assistance program that they have. This came at a request of our policy subcommittee and our school committee chair to be able to utilize the resources of MASC to help us rewrite our policy book, as well as helping us publish it and rework how it's presented on our website. So this is something that they would, I think it's an annual. Abby can explain this a little more.
It's annual. It's usually takes about 3 years, so it'd be this expense for 3 years, and so to have them put it online is what that is, and then from there, we're choosing not to utilize them to host the information online for us, which would be an additional cost that we don't think that we need. I think once the policies are updated, we'll be able to take it from there. It's just the work hasn't been done in a long time.
Yeah. The work hasn't been done in a long time, and this will make sure that the policy subcommittee as well as the school committee has all the proper resources and references to Mass General Law to make sure that all of our policies are up to date and compliant. because a lot of times policies are written and they might not be compliant, and then Russ has to say, hey, this is your policy, but this isn't compliant with Mass General Law, and then that just creates bad stuff because we have to follow Mass General Law, but we have this policy from 30 years ago that says something different. So as a committee and a direct, the committee requested this, and I think this is a good use of funds for the district. So I obviously support the transfer. And then the other transfer is $715 from the pension expense to the Warwick principal dues and subscriptions. This is just a contractual obligation. We did have one small transfer at a meeting before, but this compilates the subscriptions and the professional development piece of that contractual obligation to satisfy that for this fiscal year. And probably wondering why there's money left in pension expense. We had monies from a grant that were there to offset a retirement expense, so we were able to pull from that pension expense line to cover. So, because that's not typically a line that we would transfer from, because that's kind of set in stone. So we had a special ed grant that supports teachers and support staff, and it crosses years, and there were funds in there that were meant to offset retirement expenses, so that's why there was a small portion of funds left in that pension expense, so that's where I pulled from to cover those costs. Any questions? No? Go ahead, Judy.
So the 3,500 and the 715 requires a vote.
Yes, so that requires a vote. I just didn't know if there was any questions about those. But the vote is not, it didn't make it on the agenda, so I don't know if that has to wait till December. It's fine with me if it waits on there, but there's negatives in the expenditure report, so I always put the transfers together for the meeting, but I can just transfer those over to the December vote.
We'll have to have it.
That's fine. Yep. And then the other two are just within categories to cover some shortages.
Can I ask a favor? Sure. Now, the documents that you sent that were 150 million pages, they really weren't that many, but the longest set of documents that were grouped together.
I didn't send
that
those
we
out,
received.
but yeah.
We received.
Yeah, you guys get all the documents ahead of time for the school committee meeting.
I would love to see it broken down by which school. I guess in the numbers that precede it, it tells which school that those expenses apply to. But if we don't know that breakdown.
Are you talking about the actual AP report, which all the checks come out on? It's like 100 pages and there's one hard copy of it?
Yes.
That can't be sorted. It comes out by the general ledger. Excuse me. Account fund.
So we don't have any way of knowing
Excuse me.
which school or facility
So
they belong to.
Do you have the hard copy of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the report she's talking about. And this comes from our accounts payable clerk when she runs the checks, and it's an account by account of the check numbers. And it has all of the account numbers by it, but it's run alphabetically. I don't know that there's a way to run it by the function 1 through 7, which would be basically by your schools or special ed or central office. I can look into it, but this report is something that's a generic report that's set up by budget expense, and it prints when the checks get printed.
Only because it would be really helpful to be able to look at it by those 7 different categories.
So that's why you're provided with, why I've started giving you guys, instead of just the regular expenditure and by the 16 categories, you get the expenditure report by school.
Yeah.
So you have a summary of that. There's one by
here it
category
is.
and
All
one
right,
by
I see
school. So it tells you the range to date, which is this accounts payable run, and then it has the year to date.
So it does tell you how much we're spending by school each.
I just happened to catch one of the items on there, and it was, granted, it was just $30, and you look at all the numbers, it's small, but it was, an item we couldn't get, well, I'm drawing a blank, I'm having a horrible recall. Credit for an item from Amazon because it was returned too late. And that's what it said. Amazon would not give a credit because it was returned too late.
Can I make a suggestion? Would it be possible to put along with, when you send that out, just to do 1 through 7 and say what 1 represents and 2 represents, et cetera?
Yeah, we can.
I mean, that would be the simplest way.
Yeah. This isn't something that we per se generate, it's a system from the checks.
Right.
But I can just send the school committee, I mean, you have it here. Well, actually, this doesn't have the numbers on it.
No,
Right.
but
So
if you could just
I
put the
can
numbers on a piece of paper somewhere.
Yeah.
If
I'll
there's
just-
some way that we can look at, no.
So I'm gonna
Which
email the whole
place
school committee a generic key, so you have it with you at all times. It
All
says
right.
1 is Bernardston, 2 is, well, 2 doesn't exist anymore. 3 is Bernardston, 4 is Wardwick, 5 is the high school, 6 is special ed, and 6 is shared, and 7 is special ed. So I'll just send that so you guys have that.
I was a
and
little
you can keep it
surprised
on
to
hand.
see that an item was returned too late to get credit for it.
I'll have to look at it. A lot of times though, what happens, and I don't know why that comment's on there, it may have that we exchanged something
Okay, I don't,
out.
you know, I perused it pretty fast, but I did pick that up.
I don't put comments in.
Go ahead, Jess. I'm looking back to see it electronically if it's there, but I don't think that, that Bernardston or Northfield are in this packet of expenditure papers.
I don't
And
make the copies either, unfortunately. So, it doesn't look like,
That's this packet, the expenditures.
so when this was printed, it looked like every other page. So we'll talk to Joanne, she's obviously new, so we're trying to get her up to speed on these packets and stuff. So it may just have been that when she went through the print module, that it didn't copy properly. But the document that you guys have in your email has all of the schools on it.
Yeah.
So we'll just chat with her about making sure those get on, get copied properly.
Thank you.
Because I don't check this stuff, the sheet makes 40 packets every,
so then can I ask you about the expenditure report, and can you explain why the PRES total line is just so very different from everything else that's going on that page?
So the PRES total line on there is obviously, we had the budget originally set this year for the 11,300, which was the allotment that we paid to Pearl Roads for us closing the school and for the facilities, but we had expenditures for us operating and being responsible for the school through September. So that's why it's more than the 11,300. In addition, we had some final bills that came in, whether it was for telephone or light or whatever, and that's why it's currently negative 6,305. I've not requested to do a transfer or even done an inter-facilities transfer for those things right now, because I don't feel like I want to take money from one school to another until I have a facilities director on hand and we can assess all the accounts at all the schools. I mean, it's $63, but still, I don't want to just do that without speaking to someone who's in charge of those budget lines. But that's what that results from.
Great, thank you.
Next up is the lunch reports, which is also mine. You guys have August and September in front of you. It's kind of hard with the school lunch reports at the beginning of the school year. As I explained last year, we have revenues in one month, but the expenses you're paying are for food and services you bought the last month.
So August and September are a little wonky, just because we're getting school started and going, and you have salaries and different things. But we are ahead of the game, and we also were able to, with having a new food service director in place, able to take a look at all the balances that were on hand, because at the end of last year, the letters and stuff weren't going home about past due balance and all that. So we collected a ton of money in September on outstanding receivables. So I think Bernardston's down to having like a balance of $30 owed. So we've gotten on top of that and gotten a lot of cash flow in the door. So we're in the black for now. I think that's all we're all really concerned about. Yes. So the reason that Warwick is wonky is because there are expenses. Warwick obviously has lower enrollment and they're serving less kids, but you have a set staff member that serves those kids regardless of how many kids eat. But the biggest expense, when you look at August, you'll see what made it negative. It's under miscellaneous. So we have, in the past, some of the school lunch expenses have been in the general fund budget, and trying to right-side the ship and really get everything where it belongs. So anything that pertains to school lunch. So the pay schools used to be in the technology budget, but that is a specific technology to pay schools. So that was split evenly across the 4 schools at a tune of like $800 per school. So that's why Warwick's was put into the negative automatically in August and carried forward into September, because then we bought a lot of food and supplies. So that's why I said it's kind of odd at the beginning of the year, and I found that last year too, because you're just trying to get started and you've got all these expenses to get the year going, your inspections and all those kind of things. But as the year goes on, that should level out. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions regarding these documents? No? That's great. Okay. Everyone had an opportunity to sign the warrants? Okay. Moving in with the subcommittee reports, negotiations. Yes, yes, I made a note, Joanne. The negotiation subcommittee report.
We have been meeting with the association, and it's ongoing, and we are meeting again in a few weeks, and we have been meeting with the Pioneer Negotiation Subcommittee has been meeting with the association. It's ongoing. Everybody's still smiling at each other, and it'll continue until we sign a contract.
Thanks, Pat. Building and grounds?
We have a meeting coming up Monday in regards to the solar panels, so I really have nothing today to report, but next time I will.
Great. Curriculum and personnel?
Sure. We met October 21st to discuss the superintendent's annual evaluation, timeline, and the process for this year. We will meet again. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for January 6th at 6 p.m. to go over the superintendent's 2 goals for this evaluation. A 3rd goal will be developed as a joint school committee superintendent goal after John's are received. We will be requesting suggestions for that combined goal from school committee members. You can email them to the committee, and I'll send you a reminder about a week before the January 6th meeting. We can then discuss and choose a common goal at our regular school committee meeting on January 10th. You'll be happy to know that the recently revised DESE model for superintendent evaluation appears to be greatly slimmed down.
Good.
Thank you, Karen. Budget subcommittee.
Tonight we held our budget subcommittee meeting. Tanya presented a high-level budget that was prepared. I'd like to thank John for opening up the line of communications with the select board chairs and the finance chairs from each town. We look forward to working with each of the towns in the district and hopefully have a successful budget season. Thank you.
Thank you. Policy?
So we have been working hard on user fee policy under athletics, and been looking at exit interviews. Do we want to read that opinion tonight? Is that part of this? Or are we not there yet?
I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, so, do you have a question?
Yeah, I thought we had a policy on exit interviews, or we had some real discussions on them.
Yes, so we did. There has been a recommendation from council and the administration that we don't do exit interviews anymore, so we are revisiting this. We're going to be meeting in the next couple weeks. We have two. Let me grab my calendar out of my bag. You have it right there. No, I have it right here. Yeah,
I believe
have
it's
it right here.
the 21st.
Yes. We have one on the 21st.
So we have a meeting scheduled for 7 o'clock on the 21st and another on the 26th. We weren't, I'm not sure if we're holding both of those.
I'll let you know, I just got the email.
Okay, so we're still, so we scheduled both of those and are going to figure out which one of those we're actually going to hold. I'm waiting at PVRS, 7 o'clock. We're coordinating with PVREA and council so that everybody can talk about this and we can figure out where we want to go. Other than that, we talked a little bit about working with MASC to update our policies, and I'll talk more about that next time when we're actually able to vote on it.
Okay, I think that's everything, right? Thank you. District Agreement Subcommittee? Do you want to speak to that, Mike?
I've drawn a blank on it.
So, the District Agreement Subcommittee recently met. So sorry. We recently met, the District Agreement Subcommittee. DESE has provided their feedback and questions that need to be answered. And so what we are doing is in the process of combining the two documents with the recommendations of DESE, placing it into the current district agreement document that we have. And then at the next meeting, we'll be working to answer the questions and look at the recommendations that they're asking for. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank the members from the HART committee that were present the other night. All sides want to get this finished up. That's apparent, and just getting through the state process and have them approve it is without having any more sendbacks is what we're trying to get through.
Yep. Go ahead. Kristen, can you repeat what the process is for everyone so the school committee knows what has to happen for it to come to the table?
Yes. So once the district agreement document is compiled, it has to be sent to our legal. Then from our legal reviewing it, it has to go to DESE, who then has to review it and approve it, and then it can come to the committee. Oh, well, DESE, the commissioner, and go ahead.
It's a public document all along the way?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Where would one find it?
So it's my understanding that there have been some requests made for it, and they are being sent out to those that have been requesting it. Joanne is working on that.
Can you put it on the website, please?
I don't see why not.
If it's public, it needs to
Yeah.
be a more public rather than request.
Okay. Go ahead.
One of the things that the HART committee did a great job with all along the way was tracking changes to that document. So I would appreciate, not having seen the document for a long time, that when the document comes, it's clear somehow visually or through notes, so we can see where we last saw it and now where it is, and not have to spend hours combing through the document finding that.
Some of the changes that DESE has posed to us cannot be revised. So we'll make sure that what changes can be reviewed by the committee or recommendations made are tracked appropriately, but some of them is language that they are stating has to be in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to hunt for that.
Yeah.
I want it all highlighted so I can see it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, so whether it's highlighted,
We can have
yellow or red or.
Okay. David, did you have your hand up?
Just that even even if it is mandatory, but it be marked up as such, so
Sure.
we know to leave it alone, we know that
It is a change. Okay. Karen, did you have any?
No, yeah, I never did get, because they ran out of copies. The consultant ran out of copies with the highlighted. So I ended up not getting a copy because I relinquished mine to somebody who needed it apparently more than I did that night. And now I don't have one.
I'm sure I have it in an email or a folder on my computer.
Joanne's gonna email
With the highlighted,
Yeah.
I can't print it with my printer in the colored, so.
Yeah, maybe someone could print it here for you in color?
Yeah. that'd be-
Can I just make a recommendation that the one that we sent to Desi through our district email is the one that's sent out to anyone so that the request just come through Joanne, because there were so many changes to that. I want to make sure that the copy that I actually think I sent the last copy to Desi, because part of the delay in this process, just so the public understands, is Ruth Hirsch, who was at the state, who was in charge of reviewing this, changed positions. So we were about a month and a half without someone even looking at this. So that's why we are further behind in it. Michelle Griffin has taken her place. And as soon as she was on board, I reached out and said, hey, we're going through this process. Can you please advise me where we're at? And she got back to me about 2 weeks later with the changes that I then forwarded to Kristen. So I will find that copy that I sent to them for that final whatever, or that Joanne or Stacy did, and we'll make sure that that's a copy that gets posted on the website. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think-
just so we don't have 50,000 copies flying around from Heart Committee members and whatever, if we can just make sure that it all comes through Joanne, just so the same copy's going out to everybody. The most up-to-date one that she has might not be the one that the Heart Committee might have, I
Well,
don't know.
no, but I think what Sue was getting at is for comparison,
Yeah.
what was and what is now,
Yeah.
and what changes were made, and.
All the
color
markups that were
coding and all
done
of that.
are in the document we have.
Okay. All right. Do you want to talk about the collaborative?
Sure. Yeah, the Collaborative for Educational Services Bill Deal, again, was going to try to make this meeting, but he'll come hopefully then in the next one. We just have to vote. There, 2 Hampshire County School Districts, Gateway Regional and Worthington, have applied to become members of the collaborative. And part of the procedure for admitting new members is that we have to hold a vote to allow them to become members, so.
Go ahead, David.
And we're also approving a change in language. I've been your rep for years. I've never seen it. Can't hear you. Sorry. We're also approving a change that converts the DESI commissioner's appointment of a representative to the appointment of a liaison.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any discussion? No? All in favor of this? All right.
Be a verbal.
All right. Great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda under new business, adding Leiden students to the school sign and handbook. Go ahead.
Also, the online site as well.
Would you like to speak to that, Sharon?
Actually, I think I'd like to ask Jeff Knipe if he'd like to say a few words about that. Mr. Knipe. Adding Leiden to the Bernardston sign.
I've got a few calls in the past month regarding Leiden's identity with the district and the Leiden students going over to the Bernardston Elementary School. And I think things got lost in the closure of Pearl Rose Elementary School with the change of principals, Bob Clancy there. We had talked to him about what was going to take place, possibly changing the entry sign coming in that would reflect Bernardston Leiden Elementary School, the student handbook, the websites, even the PVR website.
Yep.
So we're just concerned, the identity of Leiden, because you go on the sites right now, or any research that's done, Leiden really doesn't even exist anymore. It's kind of lost, and for our identity with the district, we'd like to have it back again.
It really should be on letterheads and everything that's
Yeah, everything.
related. That's what was talked about before the
Right.
closure was even voted through.
And
That
it's
when
kinda lost.
Bernardston brought our kids to Leiden, that they would be sure that it was a public, acknowledgement that the Leiden children were there. So everything really should be changed to include or let people know that Leiden is part of Bernardston Elementary School.
Any other questions or discussion about this? Okay. All right, we'll move forward, and we will vote on this at our next meeting. Just to ensure that everyone is in agreement to do this. I'm sure everyone is, but it's the process.
I do have one comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing this back up to our attention.
Yeah. I don't understand why we have to wait.
Yeah, why
we vote on
we
it.
voted on this before.
Are you changing the name of the school? I guess that would be my question. If it's Bernardston-Northfield Elementary School, I think that's something that we need to actually go through the commissioner.
This was talked about before the school was even closed and agreed upon, so.
You're not saying and, you're saying.
Go ahead.
Given that it's Bernardston School, I would hope they've agreed to this name change.
Yeah, I think Bernardston has to be brought into the conversation as well.
That was.
I mean, the handbook, I don't see a problem voting on the handbook change. The building signage, I would say you should talk to the other town. But the handbook is,
I move we revise the handbook to reflect that Leiden's part of the Bernardston Elementary School.
I'd like to amend that motion.
You can make the motion, I'll withdraw it.
Oh.
well, it's, I mean, it's on the agenda, so
Okay.
typically, I know some committees put in, we're gonna vote, or might vote. That's not really critical in my opinion, and I've reviewed that with the state before. It's more that the topic has to be on there so that people know you might be voting on that topic.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I'd like to amend David's motion to add the newsletters and any other documents that get sent out to, I'd like to amend David's motion to add the newsletter and any other documents that get sent out to parents or onto the websites, wherever the documents, the names of the signs can be dealt with the towns. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem.
Okay, and I saw a hand down here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I feel like that needs to be clear it's not that, it's about the vote piece. That is a big change from how we've been operating. If there's just the topic on the agenda, then we can vote. That's completely different from how we've handled this in my only 1 year on this committee.
Yeah, it's not, in my opinion, you don't have to say the word vote. I mean, some committees are doing that, but if you have a topic the topic has to be specific enough. Like if you're going to close a building, for example, that topic, I would say you should specifically say we might be voting on closing a building tonight.
How will we know what those topics are?
Well, I think if you have something that's, if you're discussing Warwick grounds, you don't need to have something listed saying, and we might vote on, that we're going to mow more frequently or something like that. But if you have a topic that the whole purpose of the topic is to vote on closure, for example, that should be stated. Other than that, other than a topic like that, you don't need to say the word vote every time throughout your agenda. So it's,
Would you say that
so
if
I'd say
people-
almost all of your topics don't need to say the word vote next to them. It's not a bad practice. I'm just saying if you don't put vote there, it doesn't mean you can't vote on a topic that's on your agenda.
How about the financial pieces?
Right, the transfers.
But the transfers aren't specifically
She
listed
doesn't-
as an agenda item.
Yeah, that's not listed at all. But if you had transfers, warrant articles, the assumption is you'll be voting on those, even if you don't put the word vote. So it's not a bad practice to have. All I'm saying is it's not legally required you do it.
This is not a matter of terribly great import, so I wouldn't insist that that we say that it is, that we're voting or not. I would say this is an awkward, we're going to add the students to the sign. We staple them or glue them? You know, we got to take a look at the agenda, and it ought to convey, you know, our meaning. But I will take Mike's friendly amendment and incorporate it. And I'm happy with that amendment, and I would urge us to act.
I think you can amend 3 times. All in one amend.
It's all part of it.
Okay.
Am I able to ask a question in regards to maybe what the committee is voting for? The change, the order of the name, a new name, the signing of the name, just as the person who would be doing all of that, I would just like a little guidance. What would you like me to do? I'm unclear at this point.
She comes to the table.
So I think.
Sorry, just as the principal of Bernardston Elementary School, I just need a little clarity. I'm happy to do whatever it is, but I just am not 100% clear on what it is that's being asked yet.
So it appears, from what I've heard from everyone, is that Leiden should be included in multiple areas. So one would be the any document, newsletter, correspondence that's going to be going out.
Okay.
We've discussed the website.
Yep.
We have also discussed the handbook.
Yep.
And then there is also the topic of the signage, which Mr. Raymond has so graciously said it would be fine. But does that require anything? Do we have to include Desi in any of that?
Well, do you still have monies attached to that? Do you still owe money on that building in any way for repairs or?
To Leiden?
Because you're gonna.
To Leiden or Bernardston?
Bernardston.
You guys still owe on a roof?
Because if you have bonds with a certain title for the building. I think Desi does require you to notify them now that you're changing the name of the building. But I'm not positive about that.
We own the building. The school district does not. Bernardston owns the building.
Right.
Okay.
Bernardston owns the signs.
So you wouldn't be able, the committee, yeah, so the committee, if you're just leasing the building, which is correct, then the owner of the building would have to make a decision about changing the name of the building.
Okay. Okay. All right. David?
So.
I saw David's hand up.
I'm going to let go.
Okay. All right, Sharon?
So it feels like it's clear right now that the only things tonight we should be thinking about, along with the principal's input, is that we'd like Leiden's name to be added to the on-site information.
Is that secondary from Bernardston? Just so I am very clear, I'm not quite sure.
Bernardston Leiden?
Bernardston/Leiden.
Leiden?
Bernardston/Leiden?
Or hyphen, whatever?
Hyphen.
Bernardston-Leiden?
And Leiden.
Hyphen.
I think the hyphen.
I think the hyphen looks better.
I just need to know exactly what.
What do you think?
I would write "and" myself.
And.
But that's what I would do.
Go ahead, Abby.
Bernardston and.
Go ahead. Oh, hold on.
Okay,
Abby
Sharon,
had her
hold
hand up.
So what we do know is Bernardston owns the building. So if we're changing how we're putting information out, I mean, can we say something?
Can I just ask for one conversation to happen at a time, please? I'm sorry, I can't hear with all the conversation. Go ahead, sorry.
If we're putting out Bernardston-Leiden Elementary School, if we're putting out that information, that sounds like we're trying to rename the building to me, instead of just saying Bernardston Elementary School serving students from Bernardston and Leiden, or Leiden and Bernardston. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, if we're putting it out as, it's still Bernardston Elementary School, that is that is the name of the building that the students from Bernardston and Leiden are being educated in. So it looks like Sharon's shaking her head, so maybe I'm missing the point, but.
Yeah, when we were talking about closing Leiden School and partnering with Bernardston, it was said right up front, and we'll add your name to the the sign, and we'll add your name here, and it'll be Bernardston and Leiden, and it was nothing about serving the
Well,
Leiden students. It
no,
was about Bernardston and Leiden.
I understand that. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that the name of the building,
That's up to
we
the
don't
town.
have control over, but how we're advertising, if that's the name of the school.
But that was agreed upon or offered to us when we closed the school.
Hold
Okay,
on one
and-
second. I'm just gonna put a pause for 1 second. Go ahead, Russ.
I think I think you need to have more conversation about that, though, probably in a future meeting. So for tonight, you could certainly vote that, and I think Abby is correct, that it's serving the students of the two towns, but actually changing the title of the school, that's not something that the committee could vote to recommend to Bernardston that happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But,
It's not for us to do it.
yeah, but you don't have the independent ability to do it. Yeah.
No, I'm saying that.
But you're also saying that Desi has to review that if you change the name.
I'm not positive about that if there's no monies owed, but we can find out.
Maybe we revisit this, gather some information, and revisit the details come December. We can check in with the overseer, we can check in with Desi, speak with the town of Bernardston.
And Leiden.
And Leiden.
And the principal.
Does the committee want me to revise the handbook, all the letterheads and all the newsletters, or wait until December's meeting?
Let's wait,
That's
and I think we
that's
need
a
more
target, but
information.
wait.
Okay, okay,
Jeff?
thank you.
I just wanted one more, and one thing we had talked about with the closure and stuff like that is, we were really concerned that our students were gonna go directly to Bernardston, and if something else happened, like class size changed or whatever it is, that the Leiden kids didn't get lost, and all of a sudden they ended up over in Northfield.
Yeah.
And so our identity wanted to, like, it's gonna be Bernardston. You know, all our kids are gonna go to Bernardston all the time. We're not gonna find out that 20 kids are going to Bernardston and 5 are on their way to Northfield. And I don't know if anything, you know, there's nothing in the revised district agreement about that. The Leiden kids are just, we don't know where they're headed.
I think the vote was taken such that the Leiden students were educated in Bernardston Elementary under the Chapter 295 Acts of 2018. So it was specific, the school that they were going to be educated at when that vote was taken. And that's how the commissioner approved it.
Let's gather more
Yeah,
information.
let's gather more information, and then we'll add it to the December agenda once we have all those details and the requirements. Okay.
That's reasonable.
So are we saying for now, the principal does not have to make?
That is
any
correct, so no
changes?
changes thus
She
far,
knows
and
that,
then we'll
yeah.
bring the details back to the table in December, and the information, okay? All right.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Acceptance and vote of grants.
And again, I apologize.
That's you.
Bless you.
So, in having conversations with the new representative at the state that I mentioned earlier, Michelle Griffin, as well as our overseer, the overseer sent an email to John just for clarification the other day that moving forward, he felt, and the commissioner felt as well, in our goal towards becoming more transparent and with our financial reporting, et cetera, that we would have the school committee, just like we do our donations, that we would have the school committee vote to accept the grants, not necessarily set a budget for them or a cap or whatever, because the special ed director writes the SPED grant or Ariel might write a title grant, but by voting the grant and knowing that it's in existence, when you see that grant on expenditure reports, he felt that that would give you guys more understanding of, okay, I see an expenditure for a BAB grant, what is that? Or I see an expenditure for a computer science grant, where did that come from? So from this point moving forward, even with our entitlement grants, we will just have a simple vote that will be, we vote to accept a grant, either a specific amount or up to, because like this particular grant is written, but we don't know exactly how much we're going to get. We know what the cap is. And just explain what the intent of the grant is for, so the school committee knows what the funds are going to be used for and where they might see it as an offset in the general fund budget when we get to that point in time. Yes.
Did you have a question, David?
Yeah. I wonder about the timing, and maybe I wonder about the timing, and maybe school grants are different than my experience, but my experience is when I apply on behalf of the town or a nonprofit for a grant, I want the grant.
It's not that you don't want it, it's just a matter of you guys are voting to accept it and know that we're using those funds
Well, maybe
for
we
this
should say
purpose.
recognize or something rather than accept, because accept sounds conditional, and maybe it doesn't matter in a lot of these school grants, but I think maybe we should get a little bit ahead of it and say, hey, we're going to apply for the 422 grant, and that does this, and beforehand, and then recognize it once awarded too.
Once it's awarded.
Yeah, but it makes me uncomfortable as a grant writer too.
So this was a directive from the state. So I'm,
Do you have that email?
I was say, do you have?
Yeah, they haven't thought of
Kristen
everything
probably
yet.
has the copy.
But by saying we accept it means that we could also reject it. The opposite of accept is reject. So to me, that leaves the option. Not that we would do it, but
So the email states that they would like for the school committee to have a more meaningful role regarding grants and revolving funds. For grants specifically, the school committee should be voting to accept a grant under the terms and conditions of the granting agency. If the committee approves these grants, when they review the grant expenditures, they will be able to do so in a more meaningful way. Certain revolving funds, non-statutory, may need to be authorized by the committee as well to help the committee to have a comprehensive view of the district funding. Does that clarify for you?
I'd like to have it forwarded to maybe all of us to decipher.
Yep.
So we vote
ahead,
on
Sue.
each individual grant.
Yep, that's what it sounds like. Go ahead.
So no matter how we structure the language around it, the purpose is to have the committee more aware of all the grant funding in the district,
Correct.
right? Which
Mhm.
is, I think we all agree, a great idea because
It's
it's.
really just an acknowledgement.
Right, right.
of-
So we're trying to set up a process so that we are aware of our grant funding.
I think your wording could be voting to acknowledge the application for the grant.
The application? I thought
Or
this
the-
was.
And then recognize the receipt.
I thought
Once
this
that
was
happens.
So-
recognizing that we received the grant.
Russell, we're talking about Rick Kingsley stating that we have to accept and recognize the grants at our meetings. And we're talking about the language. David, do you want to just recap what
Well-
you stated as a?
My concern as someone who's written a few grants is that when I apply for it, I'm authorized to do so. It's not like, give us the grant and then my governing board will condition whether they want it or not. So I think we should get out in front of and authorize applications, and as well recognize the receipt when it comes through. And the evidence is that, and I know this is true for me, you need to hear something 17 times for it to sink in. So 2 couldn't hurt.
So,
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable
Yeah.
recommendation.
okay. So what we could do is pose to Rick this recommendation that you've said and see if it's accepted, if it's acceptable. Go ahead, Sue.
I just don't want to get in a situation where this committee voting on something is holding up an application.
And that's what I was
And that
just
can
saying.
be a problem.
So like right now, Ariel is working on applying for the Kaleidoscope grant she mentioned, as well as a planning grant that's tied into the whole CTE thing or whatever. But the idea is that as I become aware of additional grants, outside of our normal grantium, special ed, whatever, those could be voted in advance because we know we get the same ones basically every year. But stuff that is outside of the state grants and the normal funding grant process, I would bring to your attention to accept the grant / application of that grant. I don't think it's meant to be complex or binding or whatever, because again, you don't want to hold up someone applying for a grant. Like the grant for this is, the deadline's tomorrow.
Well,
So
and
who's
they're
gonna
all
send it?
time
Yeah, so who's
sensitive.
gonna say, yeah, they're all the time, so.
So I guess I wonder, and this would go to Rick Kingsley, is it a vote that we need to have, or do we need to have a report on the grants that the district is applying
So in the
for.
past, you guys have gotten a report at the end of the year of all the grants and what the amounts are, as well as part of the budget process.
Right.
But they just specifically requested that we now vote to accept these grants.
So maybe
I
we
don't
can
think it needs-
inquire if acknowledging would be more appropriate language, so that we are not
Acknowledge
acknowledge receipt of the grant. Go ahead, Mike.
I think it's more about accepting the terms and conditions is what I got out of your email. It's not about accepting the grants, the terms and conditions.
All right. Can we ask for clarification around that? We can email Rick and.
Yeah, so what do we want to do about the grant that I have tonight?
Vote on it.
We'll vote on it.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
Dawn's.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to accept 2 grants this evening, the breakfast after,
No.
or not a motion, I will present the information, sorry. It's late, I've had a long couple days, and I was sick earlier this week, so I apologize. So I have a grant from the food service director, it's the breakfast after the bell. I spoke a little bit about it, but basically it's an implementation grant to allow the food service director to purchase extra things like food service carts, things to keep the food cool, and even purchasing healthier options to be able to provide for those breakfasts to increase participation in the breakfast after the bell program. There's also a grant after the fact. It's a boost grant, but that's only available if your free and reduced participation is 40% across the district. We're not quite there yet, but by the time we implement this program, we may end up there because our participation from free and reduced students has increased through this program. So it's up to $2,500 for school, so it would be up to a total of $10,000 that we could receive for this particular grant. And the second one would be the computer science grant that John applied for last year that we have been since awarded of $7,500 a year. And he explained what that grant was to be used for already earlier.
Okay. All right.
Is the breakfast after the bell?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Can I make a motion
You may.
that we approve or accept the grant for computer science and breakfast after the bell?
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Great, thank you. Next on the agenda under old business is school committee meeting twice a month. This came about, and Abby, I don't know if you want to discuss this because we discussed it in policy.
Start, and
Okay.
I'm finding the language that we.
All right,
I've got
so, given the amount of work that the school committee has to complete and the length of the meeting times that we've had, there's been some requests and some discussion about possibly moving to having 2 meetings a month so that we are not here so late in the evening and we are meeting more frequently, to be able to also tackle more information and more tasks. So I'll let you.
Well, I think that's basically,
Okay.
that's basically what we've been doing. I mean, looking at our meeting policy, it's not compliant with what we're currently doing. We do not meet the 4th Thursday of each month.
That was changed
and,
last year.
It was, yeah, and so we've been in policy looking at that language and have some other language that we haven't fully approved yet that we're hoping to bring forward. And I can read it. I don't, but, yeah, go ahead.
Make a motion that we revise the meeting policy to read twice a month, and for the policy subcommittee to present a new policy to us.
So we're working on that in policy?
But tonight, just to vote for the policy to be revised and the fact that we need to have 2 meetings a month. So I make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mike?
So, starting in the budget process we're going into, we're going to be meeting every Wednesday, every other Wednesday, I should say.
You're talking about the budget
The budget subcommittee. So Potentially, we could be, with the school committee meeting 3 times, and if you're on 2 committees, you may be here 4 times a month, if not more. So, with that said, maybe we can, every second or third month, maybe have 2 meetings, but not every month. Because we're going to be overwhelmed with meetings shortly.
Okay. I saw David and then Abby, and then I'll go over here.
I was first. Let me rescind my motion.
All right.
Withdraw.
Go ahead, David.
I think that some months, like November and December, it might be troublesome to have 2 meetings. I had to choose between 2 last night, both school committee related. This member has the expectation that the meetings will be, even though we'll be trying to accomplish more, somewhat shorter. And it's 9 o'clock now, and we might be leaving to go home at this time. And that would make this a lot more tenable.
Okay. I saw another hand down here.
That was
Abby.
neat. So I think that the idea of this is that this isn't a permanent solution. That this is, we have a lot of work right now, or this isn't a permanent thing that we would always meet 2 times a month from now forever and ever and ever.
No, wait.
Well, and I can read the language. So the language that we're working with is regular meetings shall occur at least once a month or more frequently as needed. So the idea is that right now we are way behind. And to accomplish the work we need to do, it would probably benefit us to be coming together more often. Hopefully, we will be able to catch up and be able to focus on business as usual instead of all of this extra stuff that we've gotten so far behind on. And then we could be meeting monthly.
Okay. I had the hands up over here. Jim, did you have your hand up? And then Karen and...
I did. I think the solution is to streamline the meetings, which we've been doing a little bit more. I work at night, so that's actually punishing me because I'm on the budget committee. So am I going to be missing out on work 3 times a week?
We're meeting in the afternoons.
Afternoon works for me.
Okay.
Go ahead, Karen. Okay.
I think one of the...
Hold on.
One of the mechanisms we discussed was to schedule 2 meetings a month and only hold the second one if it was necessary, as well as put a time limit on the first meeting. Because personally, and I've heard this from others as well, I'm no good after 9:30 or 10.
Close to that.
Sharon, did you?
Wow. No, I just want to raise.
One of my concerns is that if we follow, we've been pretty much following the same agenda format every month. And if we continue to follow that same agenda format with the principal's report, superintendent, all those reports every month, I don't see how that leaves a whole lot of time to address all the other issues that we're facing, even on a 2-month meeting, 2 meeting a month format.
So last month, oh, go ahead, Russell.
So I think to expedite tonight, it would make more sense to have the subcommittee continue down the road they're already going and for you to move on to a different topic for tonight. I would say, I mean, because, but I would add to that comment, because I was on a school committee in my town for 3 years, and we had to eliminate the administrative reports for a while, and then we did it less frequently because you spent over an hour today doing that. And you have a lot of topics that you need to vote on, you need to review, so I'm not saying get rid of them completely, but you need to figure out for a period of time, how do you catch back up? And it may be by eliminating some of that. I mean, you could have the superintendent or the chair give you some goings-on with each building, but at the end of the day, that was a huge, you know, that was half of your meeting already was that.
And last
Very
month,
time-consuming.
yeah, and last month, we did try a new format and eliminating those, and then this month, having the principals and administrators come back and deliver that. So maybe there's something that we can talk about in streamlining that and how we can still get the information out
Because
But
it is
they're-
valuable and crucial information.
They have documents they're reading from, so you could get those, you could put them on a website. I think you still want administrators to come in every once in a while to talk to you about your building. But every meeting, when you have meetings that are going on this late, it's tough to make that work well.
Yeah.
Especially if they could send us their reports. If
We can email the reports out.
Email the reports to
ahead of
us,
time.
and we can read them.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'd like to have the superintendent's reports 2 days in advance, too, especially when they're long, like today.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, it
perfect.
wasn't the report that was long, it was the cookie drop thing.
Go ahead, Karen.
If we are to receive more paper ahead of time or emails, whatever, we need more than 2 days, and I think our committee should discuss that as well. And I know, Tanya, you originally made a request to give you more time because we were meeting earlier in the month than we had been. And maybe the financial reports could come 2 days ahead, but everything else, I believe, should be by the Friday before a Thursday meeting. So if something comes up, like a sudden medical appointment or a crisis, you're still ready for a meeting.
And I could do the same in emailing in my report, so it doesn't take up as much time as well. I know, I'd love to be here. Okay, well, I'm updating you, and that's fine with me as well.
Move her up.
No, it's all good.
We didn't eliminate the student.
I know, I just don't want to, I don't want to take up any, I'm being
Student was
serious
always
though,
there.
yeah, thank you.
All right.
I know, but I don't want to take up
Do you want
your
me to
precious time. See?
So policy will continue this process and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
report back.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Personnel?
Oh, well, just the 2 new hires, and there's a list of employees in the district that you should have in front of you.
I don't know who some of the people are now.
Perfect.
That's a little folder.
Yes, go ahead, Judy.
Are subcommittees assigned every 2 years or yearly?
It has been, subcommittees have been yearly.
And usually this time of the year.
I can't usually
Yeah.
after.
No, we can't hear what you're
After
saying.
the elections?
Yeah, usually after the elections.
Okay.
Let's see, any miscellaneous updates from anyone? No? Okay. Any other business? Any good and welfare? Anyone that would like to share? No? Okay. The next regular scheduled meeting is Thursday, December 12th, 2019, at 7 p.m. at Pioneer Valley Regional School. And then the next agenda item is executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, S21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. And we can take a roll call vote.
Motion?
Well, yes, we have to have a motion.
You made a motion?
I guess I made the motion.
What was the
Okay.
motion?
She read it.
The motion is to go into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter.
Okay. Thank you. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
The complaint is against me, so I wouldn't pack it up, folks. The school committee, 2 members of the school committee and a staff member have made a written complaint against me as a public official. And I have offered the opportunity to withdraw because there's no recourse. I'm an elected official. If you want to try and stymie my constitutional rights of expression, I may see you in court. So, and, but if this is going to proceed, the school committee needs to vote to go into, to proceed, and then I will make a decision whether it's going in executive session or not. And it is most likely not.
Well, it's really your, if you don't want it to go in executive session, there would be no need for a vote at all. You could just decide not to do it.
I'd like the committee to go on record whether they think it's appropriate, because my actions were at an open meeting. And our policies say that this sort of thing is the last thing we do, and it is instead the first thing we do. Our policies are a mess, and we don't really have anything solid to guide us. I think it would be unwise for the district to proceed with this at this time. So I want the school committee to go on record whether they want to hear this complaint. And I'll make my election in terms of
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay, so next step, I need a motion.
There needs to be a second.
Yeah, you made the motion.
I have a question having to do with process. Is it appropriate for the members who made the complaint to vote on the complaint and act as jurors?
They could.
Okay.
But we don't have a second yet.
Second.
It's to hear the complaint.
Whether to hear the complaint, and in this case, in executive session. And then if the vote was in the affirmative to hear it, then David's indicating at that point he'll decide whether he wants it in open or executive session.
So what do we vote on first, executive session, or do you
Yes.
hear the?
It's both, it's one and the same. It's
combination.
one motion, yeah.
Is there any discussion? There's been a second? Go ahead, Sue.
This is all uncharted ground for me. I don't really understand the implications of voting to go into executive session or not. Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, if you vote in the affirmative, it means you want to hear the complaints lodged against Mr. Young. If you vote against it, it means you do not want to hear the complaints, and the executive session would not be held. And there'd be no discussion about the complaints either. It would end the discussion.
And,
Okay. Do you mind if she just finished? Okay.
okay, so a no vote stops the whole process?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
A yes vote puts the committee in executive session to discuss the complaint?
That would be the motion, although Mr. Young would have the ability to say, I want to have it done in open session. And then you'd still hear the complaint, but it would be done in open session.
But we still have to do a vote.
Yes.
And then David referenced some concern about the committee actually engaging in this process. Can you address that?
I mean, he raised the concern. I'm not sure. What do you mean address it as far as?
That we would somehow be in some legal jeopardy as a committee for going forward?
Hearing a complaint by itself, I would say that's not, I think the actions you take in regard to the complaint, there's always potential issues with that, but hearing a complaint by itself, the statute allows you to hear complaints. I guess if there was actions taken in regard to an elected official, the reality is there's nothing you can do as far as a remedy other than to say, we'd like X, Y, or Z to happen in the future, but you can't remove the member, you can't, I mean, you could have what they call a censure, where you tell the member that we're censuring you for whatever behavior occurred. But you can't, without a recall election or something, you can't remove somebody. So it kind of falls along almost the same lines as I described before with hiring. You can make recommendations, but you can't actually take an action that, removes somebody.
David, you had wanted to say
Well,
something?
my last question was if it's appropriate for the complainants to vote, is it appropriate for me to vote as a member?
It would be.
It doesn't feel appropriate.
Welcome to elected office.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. No other discussion, so then we would move forward with a roll call vote. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. All right. So it would be all in favor?
Roll call
No,
vote.
I'm sorry.
It's
It's a little late in the evening.
It's getting late, yeah.
Okay.
Here, go. Where do we start?
Go ahead, Sue.
Somewhere.
Go ahead.
Sue O'Reilly, McCray, Warwick, yes.
Jessica Marshall, Warwick, yes.
Abby Pratt, Leiden, yes.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
David Young, I abstain.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Hatcher, Northfield, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, Northfield, yes.
Sharon Fontaine, Leiden, yes.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Jim Bell, Bernardston, yes.
Seth Kratz, Northfield, yes.
Now, Russell, what would our next steps be?
Well, the next question is for Mr. Young. Do you want to hear it, have it heard in open session or
Yes, I
executive
do.
session?
Okay. And then Russell, will you review the
Well, really, it wouldn't be me necessarily. It's the people that complained would have a chance to discuss what their complaint is. And I will say that the complaint needs to be in regard to what was submitted. So what happened is Mr. Young gets a letter that says there's complaints. They were attached to the complaint. So the complaints, the complainants need to review the complaint as listed in that, in their written statements, and not, go beyond what those complaints are. Then after that, normally the committee could ask questions. Mr. Young would have the ability to respond, and then the complainants could respond to that response, and so on until we finish the meeting.
All right.
Before we get started, can I just say, I'm very disappointed and saddened that complaints have been lodged against other members of the school committee. It's hard enough to get school committee members in some towns to begin with, and this could possibly make it that much more difficult. And we need to be working together and not against each other.
Good point.
All right. And then who would make the complaint?
Well, I think it's up to the complainants to state what their complaints were, and then it would be, Mr. Young would be able to give a response. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to read the complaint if you want to just give a synopsis of what
I would
the issue
object.
was.
They need to read their complaint. They don't
Well,
get
you
to
have
riff,
the-
they don't get to riff on this. We had this discussion already, Russell.
Yes,
The
but
complaint
that doesn't
has
mean,
expressed.
that doesn't mean they have to read it word
All
for
right,
word.
well,
They
this
can-
thing is recorded. Are we still recording?
It's a public document, it's open session, so that
Are we still
anybody that wants it
recording?
can have it.
Yes.
Yep.
Where's Tyler? Yes.
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 All right, thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to begin?
I'll go.
Copy you. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, does everybody not have a copy?
No, the committee does not have copies of the complaint.
So was this a
Oh, that
joint
should've-
complaint?
No.
Yeah, provided, so.
Joanne never, she didn't provide it.
No.
For the executive session.
Was she asked to?
So, in that case, how long, I can't remember how long these are. I guess you could read them
Do you want me
into
to
the
make
record.
copies? I can make copies if it's needed.
I can't remember how long these complaints are. Are they page?
They're a page apiece, is my recollection.
One of them's 2.5 pages. It's written on school letterhead. It's signed by the finance director, and it calls in its last line for, I believe, my removal as a school committee member, which is a violation of ethics law.
So I would say we should make copies of each, for each member. If we could do that now.
Well, who's going to give?
Do we have copies to be copied?
Yep.
Are there copies to be copied of all of them?
Do you have a copy of yours?
David?
I'm not sure.
Could I just have everyone's attention?
Sure.
Oh.
Okay, all right. Okay.
There are technical difficulties with the formatting and the printing using the machinery up there. So if everyone is in agreement, we will continue this and get copies out. Is that accurate?
Yes.
To the committee, so that everyone has the appropriate copies. And I apologize that people did not get them. I'm sorry?
What do you mean by we'll continue this?
Do it at the next meeting.
Doing it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, David?
What are we doing?
Okay.
Don't hold us hostage, please.
Yeah,
We
really.
need to,
Excuse me?
Don't hold us hostage.
No, it will give me plenty of time to respond and to others, because specifically what Tanya did is actionable by the Ethics Commission. I don't trust they'll do anything except maybe make her take a class. I would appreciate the delay. The information can become public. I believe that Tanya's complaint is actionable, at least by the Ethics Commission, who haven't impressed me to date, but they might make her take a class and become aware of the fact that you cannot use your appointed position to, in effect, support or not support an elected official and to call for their removal. It's, she might have to prove she understands that ethics test that we all take that's such a joke because you can't get it wrong. So I'm fine with delay, folks.
Okay.
We'll be turning up the heat. I offered an opportunity to withdraw this. It didn't happen. Here we are.
Okay.
I make a motion to go out of executive session.
We're not.
We never,
Oh, that's right. we're
To
not.
adjourn.
It would be to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
oh, second.
All in favor?
Ay, 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 ay.